हम दौड़े हम जाने चले हैं कहाँ हम जाने ना जाने इस दिल की जुबान
हेलो अस्सलाम वालेकुम वेलकम टू अनदर एपिसोड ऑफ द पाकिस्तान एक्सपीरियंस। पता नहीं क्यों 2 साल लग गए इसको होने के लिए बिकॉज शी इज वन ऑफ माय फेवरेट पीपल इन द एंटायर वर्ल्ड। तो आज हमारे साथ आई हुई हैं तीनों लोग एक साथ। नताशा, हुमैरा, इजाज, आप तीनों कैसे हैं?
हम तीनों ठीक है। पता है अभी recently someone commented on this like post I had that said Natasha Humera Ejaz. Someone just said के पूरे टब्बर के नाम ले आई। पूरे
मेरा
टब्बर
भी यही है ना,
सबके।
शहजाद, गयास, शेख।
हाँ, yeah.
Since
I'm actually Natasha Ejaz officially, but I put my middle name when I was like 15, 16 myself. That was like I felt cool.
ये किन
I'm gonna
पाकिस्तानियों
have
का मिडिल नेम होता है? How did you get a middle name? What is the story?
The story is that I don't have a middle name. I'm Natasha Ejaz. But I was growing up and I was in my teens. I was in my late teens, and the kind of setup that I grew up in, like I was pretty much like a single mother situation for a long time in the middle. And so I was just really confused as to why we're known by our sort of paternal ancestry, and no role of the woman that brings you up is ever in the name that you have. So I just decided to put her first name as my middle name because I thought it might be like, I don't know, I had this feeling that people might know my name one day, and I wanted her to be a part of it because I'm equal parts my father and my mother. I get my hard work from my father, but I definitely get like a lot of creativity and interesting thought from my mother.
I thought हम funny
So I
बातें
wanted
करेंगे,
to sort
आपने
of
इतनी beautiful बात कर दी आते ही. This is one of the most beautiful things I've heard in a long while, Natasha.
Hey, thanks. I just, it's like you grow up and you are equal parts both your parents, whether you like it or not. And I just sort of wanted to be equal parts them in the way that people knew me.
For people who don't know her, एक तो आप कहाँ रहते हैं, क्या करते हैं, क्यों कर रहे हैं ये साथ ज्यादती? खुदा के वास्ते पॉडकास्ट पॉज करें, इनका नाम यूट्यूब पे और सुने इनकी खूबसूरत आवाज बोल हैं नताशा हुमैरा एजाज के आवाज। सिंगर, सॉन्ग राइटर, इंडी क्वीन।
Hey, I like that title.
है ना, I mean there are very few people जो ये इंडी सिंगर सॉन्ग राइटर मोल्ड में हैं. अब तो काफी ज्यादा हैं, but you've been here for a decade or something.
No, longer than a decade for sure. So don't let this confuse you. I look young, but I'm not really.
एक तो ये इन्होंने सबसे बड़ी ज्यादती की है जिस दिन ये पैदा हुई है. I cannot be the coolest person born on that day because she was born on that day.
Hey, yeah. So guys, everyone, him and I share a birthday. Just one birthday. It's the only one you need to share.
Yeah, तो ये बहुत sadness है कि she's the coolest person born on that day. Same year also.
Well, there's also Sonia, and I think she's pretty cool.
I think you win this. I think Sonia will agree.
Okay. Okay. I'll humbly accept.
So indie music, ये क्या सीन है? क्यों है आप इंडी? क्यों नहीं है आप हर जगह at this point? Is that a conscious decision?
Why?
Or you're like, मुझसे क्यों पूछते हो यार? मुझे किसने बताया नहीं है?
Okay. When I started my journey as a songwriter, musician, whatever, like at this point, I think I just call myself an entertainer. If I was to be completely honest, I like that people know me as indie queen, or that all that really tells
like
me
owned
that
up to that. You really like been like कि मुझे पसंद आया, अब मैं use करूँगी.
I like it. No, but in the sense that like I like that there's this. I like that I had a role to play in any way of like sticking to indie guns, and essentially all that really means to me is that I always felt like I had something to say that other people weren't saying, but they wanted to hear. And I sort of didn't want to hand over the responsibility to say that to anybody else that might not understand how to put it like I would, because I'm not an incredible songwriter, but I am the songwriter that I am. So what I will say, nobody else will say, just like what you the way you impact the world or the universe, only you can do. And I truly believe that about every individual. And so for me, I've just been a very curious person my entire life. And there were curiosities I had about, alternate ways of saying things, and just sitting behind an instrument and letting it guide you, as opposed to like someone saying that this is a box and you have to fit into it in order to become popular. And I wanted to be, I didn't have a conscious decision to be known or famous or anything like that. I just wanted to make things and I wanted to put them out in the world. And I wanted to make other people feel the way musicians made me feel when I was growing up. Literally, that was why I decided to do anything with my life. And because of that, I think I just sort of went head first into like studying a lot. I went to music school. I studied production. I have been to residency since then. I sort of keep up this student in me alive. And so whatever fancies the student in those years and whatever she's capable of doing, she will do. And just the fact of the matter is that I don't think, I haven't developed a tonality or a technique to sing mainstream music. I could have if I trained super young, but the kind of techniques that you need to survive in an industry of mainstream music, I just didn't have that skill set, and I didn't want to let that stop me from still doing what I wanted to do. I guess that's a good way to answer why I haven't gone mainstream yet.
But do you think that binary still exists? कि ये mainstream का काम है और ये indie का काम है. Do you think that binary still exists?
Yeah, मैं आपको बताती हूँ, आपके जो पाकिस्तान में तो आपके जो सबसे बड़े भी सुपरस्टार्स हैं वो भी टेक्निकली इंडी हैं, क्योंकि यहाँ पे लेबल्स प्रॉपर्ली काम नहीं करती, यहाँ पे आपको प्रॉपर्ली आपका तो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर ही नहीं है for it to be anything but indie. So strings, they're indie, Junoon is indie. Everyone is indie in the sense that they're independent musicians and acts that are like, this career is essentially earning money, putting it back into yourself, and then releasing more music, and then doing the marketing for that, and repeating the cycle, getting shows, and then repeating the cycle, and then doing that all over again. And that's basically the model here. And that's pretty independent. I think I signed up with a label 2 years ago for the first time. So I think everything is independent in Pakistan, and therefore everything has the capacity to become mainstream. Dave Bungish said something very interesting to me once, and it sort of stuck. There were years in the middle where I was very genuinely confused as to why I was not getting hired for certain kinds of work that other people were getting hired for, and they weren't necessarily, we were, people that used to get hired were at the same skill level as me, but I still not get hired. And so I thought it was a thing where I didn't know how to impress brands, and I didn't know how to talk to like marketing individuals and do the business side of things. And Babe was just like, Natasha, if the people love you, everyone runs after you. Like, you just have to focus on the people that are listening to you and what you're saying to them. And she was so right, because it was one of those moments where something just clicked, and I stopped caring that I'm not necessarily like, if there's a race, I'm like not in it. I'm far behind. But it suddenly stopped feeling like a race, and it just felt like, if audiences who, by the way, have a lot of access to me because of the social media infrastructure that we now function in. And so, if my fans love me, brands will want to hire me, because then, like your music and your presence and whatever, it becomes like prime real estate. That's how I started looking at it. And strangely enough, I started getting hired for a lot of work, and I just realized it was just better to stick to your guns. And the day, when I say mainstream singing, I mean more like playback, Eastern style.
You weren't ever going to do that anyway.
The thing is, I've grown up listening to Bollywood and a lot of local music, because my family was into music. So we heard everything under the sun. I've grown up listening to Abda Parveen, I've grown up listening to Nayara Noor, I've grown up listening to Tina Sani. This is all part of my childhood. I just never I don't know. I was really following my heart. And my brother introduced me to Bjork when I was like 7 years old. And I tell you,
उसकी गलती है
that's
सारी.
what happened to me. I listened to Bjork when I was 7 years old, and I was like, ooh, bunch of machines, weird voices. She looks like an alien. I want to do that.
हजारों चीजें हैं इसमें अनपैक करने वाली, बट मैं जरा रिवाइंड अगर जाऊं, how much of this is educated by your first experience with commercial music? And if I remember correctly, you were a little scarred by it. ये एक youth music launch हुआ था कई हजारों
Youth
साल
records.
पहले, Youth Records.
I wasn't scarred by Youth Records. It was really
I thought it
empowering,
was a
actually.
great song, but मैं उसके बाद कुछ like 1-2 साल बाद I was like, right way to fall, right? That was the song, right?
Yeah.
You weren't too happy with how it came out. You were like, ये मुझे सही represent नहीं करता, और नहीं?
No. I don't. Maybe I could have said that back then. Maybe this is a conversation you and I have had. No, again, I think with Youth Records, there were things that I did have problems with, but now that I look back at it, it was really, it's like I was someone that both had extreme amounts of confidence in themselves to write music like that, but had no confidence in themselves to represent themselves well. Is that difference? Does that make any sense?
समझाएं.
मुझे ना like कैसे कहूँ? I've struggled a lot in my career because fickle things make sense to me much later, right? So at that time, it was fickle of me to think about what I'm wearing, what I'm looking like, and all of that stuff. But if I look back at it, it was such a fantastic opportunity to go outside of my shell and really fully go outside of my shell. I think I've always just gone like 70-80% outside of my shell, and there's something that brings me back into my comfort zone. And so I'll show up in like super chill clothes and like not look very pop starry. And really, I think my struggle has not been the music, and it hasn't been my voice. My struggle has been like that I don't know how to fit into the world, the image of the mainstream, because I prefer to be just chill. Sort
heavy relate कर रहा हूँ मैं, मेरी भी similar
this
journey.
person.
Do you also feel सिर्फ commercial angle से? And this I've always felt. Do you think we started too soon? Because by the time people wanted brands, wanted people, they're like, यार नया कौन है? And it's sort of like, हाँ, Natasha's always been there, Shazad's always been there, अब कौन है? Who's the new thing? And you're like, हाँ, but मेरे पास मेरे टाइम में सारी opportunities नहीं थी ना जो अब लोगों के पास हैं, so I never got them.
I get that. I can hard relate. But what I will say about that is, I don't think I started too soon. I wouldn't have changed it. I wouldn't have changed any of this yeah. I think it went exactly the way it was supposed to. And you know, the thing is, Shazad, I think there's a fallacy that we have control in our lives, but we really don't.
we all make our plans, but God is the best of all planners.
Yeah, I mean, things are just supposed to unfold the way they're supposed to unfold, and I don't regret anything. I'm just like, now I look at myself, and if I'll go that extra step to not look like I just stepped out of my living room when I'm doing. And the crazy part is now I'm getting the mainstream stuff. Like I'm getting films, and I'm getting jingles, and I'm getting brand shows and all of that stuff. I mean, with the exception of just trying to lay low during COVID, मुझे अब उन चीजों like वो opportunities अब मेरे पास हैं अगर मैं उनको इस्तेमाल करना चाहूँ, essentially, you know.
So this also sounds like a journey, and it's a journey I've been on as well. कि I think initially when you're young, आपकी एक instinct होती है कि यार इसको क्यों मिला, like you said कि यार इसका skill level same है, ठीक है, okay, I'm happy for you. It's not like you're envious of anybody. But sometimes you sit back and be like, everybody else is getting something except me. तो मुझे कुछ बदलने की ज़रूरत है, right? So you get stuck trying to figure out, and that just makes you worse as a performer, because then you're like, मैं ये भी कर लूँ, ये try कर लूँ.
Absolutely.
And
And
you start
मुझे याद है शहजाद, मुझे
what makes you.
कुछ सालों बाद मुझे बहुत comments मिलते थे from like industry professionals about like there was also the thing of me not trying to fit into a cookie cutter just because I wanted that freedom as an artist, but there was also a lot of like stuff that I had to reflect and deflect, which was conversations about why I don't necessarily dress up in tight clothes and dance on stage, and why I don't get certain operations done to look a certain way, whether it's my body or my skin or my hair. There's been a lot of I spent a lot of years not wanting to think about these things, but having to think about these things because people were saying them to me a lot. And everyone says this to you. Everyone says this to you. There are very few people who really genuinely don't think that it makes a difference. Most people think it makes a huge difference. And so for me, like fighting the hard fight and staying in this space where I still continue to do my thing and represent myself as authentically as possible is because I've seen the difference in my years. I've been in this industry now for 15 years. And I've seen the difference between the girls that were allowed to be shown on TV when I was growing up versus now. There's a lot more acceptance of the brown skin. There's still a lot of, there's still a long way to go when it comes to really accepting it. But like that conversation has begun. Brands are changing their names. I see more
Glow and Lovely से फोन आ गया था यानी ठीक है समझ में आ गया
मैंने नहीं कहा
ऑफर आ गई थी ग्लो एंड लवली
तुमने बोला है ब्रांड नेम तुमने बोला है but what I'm trying to say is like there's definitely a shift in perspective when it comes to that, and I can tell you like मुझे मेरे पूरे बचपन लोगों ने काला बोला है, मुझे मेरे पूरे बचपन लोगों ने छोटा बोला है, ठिंगा बोला है, और मैं बहुत साल सोचती थी कि मैं डिजर्व ही नहीं करती किसी भी किस्म की मेन स्ट्रीम सक्सेस बिकॉज मैं हूँ ही नहीं, प्यारी नहीं हूँ मैं. Like what does it matter that I'm talented? What does it matter that I'm like anyone can be like I've gone down to that route where I can think literally anyone can be talented, and there's a part of me that believes that because I believe anybody can do whatever it is that they put their mind to, and I think talent is this like very arbitrary word, which basically, I mean, if I was to put a definition to it, it's just the ability to focus on one thing since you were a kid without someone having to need you to do it. Because once you focus that much, any human being can learn anything in the world. And so, yeah, I had a really different perspective on life growing up. And then I went into the industry and I was constantly told that I don't look pretty enough and I don't not white enough and I don't sing brown enough and I don't, and there was a lot of I don't fit in. And so I just, I sort of had, so for some years I'd resolved myself to that emotion and that belief that I'm not supposed to do well. I don't know why I'm a musician. I'm just supposed to make music. I'm not supposed to do well. So yeah, it's confusing doing this.
I mean, art is not being prime minister, right? It's not a democracy. It's not कि आपको ज़्यादा votes मिलेंगे तो फिर आप artist हैं. अभी मैं देख रहा था कि फारिस शफी के सारे जो गाने हैं, they've crossed 1 million now. I've been harping on that Faris Shafi is the poet of our times. लोगों को बाद में समझ में आएगी. उसके 7 साल पुराने गाने who were at a few thousand views have now crossed 1 million. The songs haven't changed. The songs haven't changed. The songs are the exact same for that long. It's just people are like, oh wait, what? ये इतने टाइम से क्या कर रहा था? कहाँ था? So sometimes people also find you later. Sometimes it's के you're maybe ahead of the curve, like for instance what you're doing with stupid happiness theory. वो पाकिस्तान में नहीं viral होगा, but maybe in 10 years when a bunch of people are doing, people will go back and be like, oh shit, Natasha was way ahead of her time.
That's a really good example actually. For instance, the part of it is maybe people aren't ready, and part of it is that there's hints of self-sabotage involved in these conversations. So for instance, there are steps I can take to ensure that it reaches a few 100,000 numbers, I just haven't done it because I don't think I deserve to. So it's a mental block of like, I don't even think it's like the future. I think right now, if I learned to face myself better and to make sure that, for instance, it's a simple thing, but like promoting your stuff on social media just does the trick. And it takes me a long time to boost a post because I don't know if I want to be showing up in people's feeds as anything really. So I'm not necessarily sure in my case that I believe that if people started listening now, there are more people that I have access to that would be interested. There's self-sabotage there.
If we go back to what Abe said, just keep doing the music and you'll find an audience. It's also slightly not true anymore. I think social media के जो initial days थे, उसमें फिर भी थोड़ी democracy थी. आपका content, अगर आपके friends हैं, आपके followers हैं, वो दिखा देते हैं. Now it's a lot more like television, where people control it, जिनके पास पैसे हैं. Respectable content creators, यार, content creators जिनका content मुझे actually पसंद है. मुझे recently पता चला कि they have these meetings with influencers कि मैं क्या content बनाऊं, which you guys need, and these memers, and then they make it cater to that कि यार ये अच्छा इस दिन release होगा, तो इस दिन आप लोगों ने ये सब करना है. Some of them are paid, some of them are like, we'll give you a favor, you give us a favor वाला arrangement. And I was like, मैं सोच भी नहीं सकता कि मैं content बनाऊं और कंटेंट के अराउंड कुछ 100 इन्फ्लुएंसर्स हों जो ये एक नैरेटिव बनाएं कि वाओ व्हाट.
It's a whole thing. It's like, yeah, absolutely, I totally there's a gamification to digital marketing that has a lot to do with what you're talking about, which is like, and it feels really ridiculous that you have actually like this infrastructure set up and you still don't want to take advantage of it, because I still rather get viral because people loved the music and shared it. But I have to get my head around the fact that that's just not how it works. But like on streaming platforms, I've seen a lot of success, and I went from 600 followers to 7,000 followers over like a month and a half. Nice. Because of Spotify coming to Pakistan. And so like there's a completely different parameter and matrix for me to study that I'm paying attention to. I'm like, these people are actually listening to the music. So SHT may not do well here, but SHT currently can do really well in other parts of the world, which I have access to if I use the promotional tools properly. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, I might not fit here right now, but I listen to the kind of music that SHT is. Therefore, I know there are other people in the world currently listening to the kind of music that SHT is. So there is always a market. You just have to allow yourself to tap into it and be open to being creative with it. Be open to the idea of like Taka Taka is a great example. Taka initially wasn't doing well in Pakistan because metal sunne wale shayad kam ho gaye the, wo trend nahi raha tha, but their albums were doing remarkably in places like Japan, where that music is still being very much consumed. And so once they did that round and their music came back to Pakistan, to all the other, Pakistan, the stuff that works is the branded content. The Taka Taka goes on a branded show and now the whole country. You know what I mean? It's just पूरा पाकिस्तान में उल्टा है.
National
पाकिस्तान में आपको celebrity पहले बनना होता है और artist बाद में बनना होता है.
I found it easier to get my plays produced in New York than I have in Pakistan. बंदा सोचे कि जो पूरी दुनिया जहाँ स्ट्रगल करती है वहाँ लोगों ने मेरा प्ले पढ़कर प्रोड्यूस कर लिया, बिकॉज वो मेरिट अपॉर्चुनिटीज होती हैं, राइट, ओपन कॉल्स होती हैं. यहाँ पे तो सारा इतना क्लोज सिस्टम है दैट एवरीबडी इज लाइक, यार टीवी पे इतना शिट प्रोग्राम्स आ रहे होते हैं, वो सेम लोग 10 साल से लिख रहे हैं. एक इंसान एक महीने में 5 ड्रामे लिखता है. कैसे कोई 5 ड्रामे लिख सकता है यार एक महीने में? तो अगर वो लिखेगा तो इसी तरह के होंगे ना. What else do you expect? There are teams that work on your favorite shows, which work over years to write that, which is why it comes out.
Exactly. I recently watched a show called The OA, and it's an old show and it only has 2 seasons, and it was just one of those very gripping 2 episodes in, and I was hook, line, and sinker. And I found out at the end of the 2 seasons that the show's been written by playwrights. So the show creators hired 3-4 playwrights to write, and I was just like, obviously that's why it's so good. And
Have you seen
you know,
Malcolm
we
and
have
Marie?
yes,
That looks like a play. That looks like
yeah,
somebody
it
wrote
does.
it as a play and they turned
Yeah,
beautiful, absolutely
yeah,
beautiful.
absolutely. And I mean, that's also, you know, I don't know, Shazad, मैंने इस वक्त पे जहाँ पे I mean, also quarantine, COVID has, I will just completely changed my life. And I don't know how to explain it. I'm just a lot less scared of really anything. I think at some point you get used to being by yourself well enough to like enjoy your own company. And I've been doing more than just writing music. I've been writing scenes. I've been writing, you know, parts of a play that I'm interested in producing. And so, yeah, this has been a really great journey. Actually, I had a lot more time on my hands to be the kind of multifaceted artist that I think I always wanted to be.
Which you
And
are.
so I might come back into comedy.
You are a
Might just.
Natasha
I did.
Humera Ejaz. You're everything.
I did briefly for 2020. I did some comedy. I did some funny sketch
You also did
videos that I put out.
some 7-minute, what was that thing that you got in touch for? KR, I'm doing a set kind of thing. There's a presentation.
When was this, Shazad?
Time has no meaning anymore, Natasha. It could have been last year, it could have been 3 years ago. But it was some
Was I doing this?
presentation where you're talking about your journey, उसमें slides भी थी.
Oh, that was a while ago. I don't know what that was. Sorry. Yeah.
हाँ, ये
Oh,
अंदर की शुभा मुगल कहाँ से बाहर आ गई थी? आज लाइक क्या हो गया? बारिश हो गई है? Why is this noise coming?
I know what you're
रोजा खुल
talking
गया.
about.
मुझे लगा रोजा खुल चुका है.
ओ पहला रोजा है आज.
हाँ. Was it
नहीं,
Pecha
अब मुझे
Kucha? I
याद
think
आया
that's
है.
what it
सही,
was.
समझ आ गई है.
Right?
हाँ, Pecha Kucha. It was a Pecha Kucha night. It was a Pecha Kucha
Yes.
night. It was great, actually. That was funny. That was funny.
It was
But you
stand-up
know,
adjacent.
it was stand-up adjacent. And the crazy part is I did it once and I never did it again.
अच्छा था. I liked it.
हाँ, मुझे फिर से करना चाहिए. मुझे एक्चुअली करना चाहिए.
ये
अब मैं कंफ्यूज हो जाती हूँ. अब मैं अगर कहूँ कि नताशा मैं जहाँ लाइव स्टैंड अप तो लोग म्यूजिक ना एक्सपेक्ट करने आ जाए. वैसे वो भी कर सकती हूँ मैं. लाइक आई कैन डू इम्प्रोव सॉन्ग्स.
weird Nat.
Weird Nat Alkovich.
Ejaz. Weird Nat Ejaz.
Weird Nat Alkovich. Weird Nat Ejazovich.
यार इट्स ऑल्सो स्पेसेस खत्म हो गई है ना. आई थिंक जब कुछ खास एग्जिस्ट करता था, एक आसानी थी कि यार कर लो. क्या जा रहा है, 50 लोग आके देखेंगे. आप एक
नहीं, पता
एक्सपेरिमेंटेशन
है
नाइट कर सकते हो.
इस्लामाबाद में तो बहुत, अब मैं पिछले 3-4 सालों से तो इस्लामाबाद में हूँ, लेकिन बहुत फर्क पड़ना शुरू हो गया. देयर यू नो कुछ खास नहीं है, लेकिन 2-3 और वेन्यूज खुली थी और वो रेगुलरली चीजें होस्ट करती हैं. और उसके अलावा लाइक देयर इज कॉमिक कलेक्टिव्स नाउ इन टाउन आल्सो दैट आर जस्ट लाइक डूइंग देयर ओन थिंग्स. देयर इज different kinds, like there's different seasons of stand-up shows happening from different collectives. And then, I mean, we're doing Insulin Nights where there's a lot of comedy and then there's a lot of sketch comedy, but also we have 1 or 2 stand-up artists every now and then. So there is actually stuff. COVID, guys, COVID. I can't wait for the whole world to be vaccinated so I can get back on stage.
There are spaces where you can do it. But I don't know, अब मैं ये बुढ़ा हो गया हूँ. But I felt like the initial spaces had more heart. Like with T2F when Sabine was there, the space had heart, which it doesn't anymore. I think कुछ खास, खैर मैं तो नहीं involved था internal politics में, बाद में जो भी हुआ. But initially it did feel like it had heart, which I don't think a lot of spaces have now. Zara face is great, but there's like that commercial element to it, as opposed to कि जी बस यहाँ आओ chill करो, artist perform करें, vibe.
हाँ, पॉइंट मैं आपका समझ सकती हूँ. मैं I think, I don't know,
You were too close to it too.
No, not at all. Kuch
No, I
Khas
mean
has a
like you
lot.
know all the ins and outs. So you have a lot more nuanced take on Kuch Khas than I do.
Not just Kuch Khas, but any place. Look, so Islam, Kuch Khas would have still had heart. Kuch Khas would have still been here if the powers to be in this country didn't, for some reason. Honestly, sometimes I think like just like the nation has it out for the arts and just wants it to not succeed. Honest to God. In a city like Islamabad, which didn't really have enough of a culture of its own anyway, for it to have a place like that and for it to be not supported in a shift, I understand. Like, uh, I don't know what to say without like putting myself in a very strange position. But all I'm going to say is that there's a lot of support that we could get from the state, for which there are budgets also. I think that's the most important thing. Pakistan has a cultural budget. It is assigned to the National Council of Arts of the cities once a year. I do not see any subsidized plays happening. I do not see anyone being paid to write an original script. I don't see any festivals being done where there's actual digging out of talent and nurturing it from the grassroots level in order to like keep developing what it is for a city or a country to have arts and culture. This is a whole process. It needs to be part of policy making for this country to support the arts. PNCA in Pakistan, in Islamabad over here, I don't even know what range their salaries are, but it's basically just a government institution where there's a lot of venue space, there's a lot of spaces, but nobody is willing to subsidize any rates.
Yeah, it
So
costs
if
what, like 50,000 a night?
oh, business cute. That's just the additional like generator cost. Not
What?
even joking. Like
So if I want to do
yeah,
a
yeah,
play
it's
at PNCA, what will it cost me for a night?
a lakh 20 a night,
Oh
something like
Lord.
that.
To
Yeah,
make
yeah.
it,
You can't make up these costs. There's no way for you as a Thespian, unless the industry is so developed and there's plays happening all the time. Like you want to earn money off of it, like like put the work behind making sure that that industry is actually flourishing and has a space. I've worked for years in theater in this country, and I have seen firsthand what it means for a production to be put together. Brands have also completely changed their attitudes towards theater, so they're not even sponsoring as much as they used to back in like the early 2000s. So really, like, it's insane to say, but Infinite Nights, which is like a shoestring budget collective that just writes original work and puts it on stage in a little black box with like audience sitting on the floor and us with our scripts in our hand and still putting a performance up. That's like the most generous cultural sort of payback to the city, and collectives that are doing stand-up and collectives that are actually doing 1,000 a ticket or something like that to just make ends meet. It's ridiculous to me that the state has a less role to play. I have more of a role, Shazad. It's ridiculous to say this, but I have a bigger role to play in inspiring young people of my city to go and follow their dreams and do what they're doing. And like, I've been putting up models of ways for things to work since I was 16 years old. And like, just quite frankly, I've done a lot more with my partners in Islamabad than most of what people that are in power that should be doing something about it have.
थोड़ी तो खुशी होती है when you see this. Like even if I think about the stand-up comedy scene, yes, Saad was doing it, yes, Samisha was doing it, but they were doing those PACC shows. Opening up venues like Mad School, not मतलब मेरा कोई उसमें ताल्लुक नहीं था खोलने में, but stand-up वहाँ होना, जगहों पे होना, लोगों को पता हो stand-up क्या है. तो अब अगर stand-up comedy nights होती है, nobody will be like, oh ये पहले शहजाद ने 10 साल पहले कभी किया था. But it's just nice to see things happening. Like even with improv, हम डेवू से बैठकर आते थे यार कुछ खास में शो करेंगे. It costed us more to come to Lahore. Find a hotel where the 4 boys would stay in the same room and then put up that show, then it would than the money we would make from that show. But we just did it
Absolutely.
because कोई तो करे, कोई तो शुरू करे. अब माशाल्लाह एक दो
कोई तो
improv
करे.
troops हैं, but this is what 2010, 2011.
Yeah. I mean, the arts have struggled till very recently, and they stopped struggling a little, and then COVID happened. Quite literally, you know, the festival season right before March 2020 was like the most booked I had been in 3-4 years, because just everything was happening, and it had finally started picking up. I was so happy.
So if we go back a little, you were talking about, you know, things that people say. ये मुझे आजकल मेरे स्ट्रगल चल रहा है, क्योंकि आजकल माशाल्लाह इस पॉडकास्ट की वजह से, इस पॉडकास्ट पे जो बातें होती हैं, हर हफ्ते मुझे दुनिया भर की गालियां पड़ती हैं. अब मुझे पता है मेरा बैकग्राउंड क्या है, मुझे पता है कि मेरी औकात क्या है, बट मैं भी जब पढ़ता हूँ हजारों ट्वीट्स के पेड एजेंट है, आई एम लाइक यार कोई मुझे छुप के तो नहीं पैसे दे रहा. मुझे पता भी नहीं चलता. उसको मैं बता दूं कि भाई तू गलत अकाउंट में डाल रहा है, खुदा के वास्ते अगर पेड एजेंट करना ही है मेरे भेज दे यार, खुदा का वास्ते है तुझे.
तेरा हिस्सा भेज दे मुझे.
हाँ, बाल कटाने के पैसे नहीं है मेरे पास. But the point is, when you read 100 people saying something, you know in your heart it's not true because you live your life. But after reading 100 people, you're like, maybe they have a point. So when you were going through that and people were saying all those terrible, clearly untrue things to you, I mean, क्या ही लोगों के standards होंगे अगर वो आपको इस तरह की बातें कर रहे थे. One of the best artists we have. How did you not let it get to you, or did you let it get to you and then you rose out of the ashes and been like, fuck all of you guys, I'll do me?
Yeah, I think it was much more of the latter. You have to understand, Shadad, I started getting bullied when I was in 3rd grade for being too dark. It was sewn into my system that I am ugly since I was in 3rd grade. So when I grew up and still got the same feedback from, you know, from the industry or from people, I sort of had no trouble believing it. And I think every day is a struggle for me to believe it. I think what has shifted inside me is that I gave too much of, I really cared too much about what people think for a long time in my life. Even in school, when I used to get bullied, I used to like overperform and get the good grades and be the really like star student, and I'm always singing, and I'm in front doing the assemblies, and I'm doing competitions, and I'm winning competitions. Like, you know, it was all very reactive with deep-seated insecurities that like, okay, maybe you don't think I'm beautiful, but I can do all these things. Can you appreciate me for how it is? Until one day, like I just, I recognized that whatever I am, whoever I am, I have a special mind. I think I started allowing myself to say that to myself, that no matter what you are, what you look like, who you are, you have a special mind, which means you have a way to process things that aren't as destructive as what you see in the world. So just focus on that, and just focus on the fact that you know, it's a waste of this mind to think about how I'm not amazing, and just sort of be curious. Just, you know, engage the senses and engage the mind and be curious, and just try to don't pay attention to these other things, because I've also been through major life traumas. I lost both my parents. I am now 33 years old without any parents. It is so strange. And you just gain a different perspective on life because of things like that. So, you know, when you're at the end of life moment, you think this is the kind of shit you're worrying about. This is not the kind of shit you're worrying about. Like, मुझे याद है जब मेरी माँ अपनी लास्ट घंटों में थी तो मेरा दिमाग कहीं और था, और वो इम्पोर्टेंट मोमेंट्स होते हैं, वो जरूरी चीजें होती हैं। और जितना मैंने ये ज्यादा करना शुरू किया उतना ये होना शुरू हुआ कि मुझे लाइक आई जस्ट थिंक आई एम awesome now. And any day that I don't think I'm awesome, I allow myself not to think I'm awesome, because that's what anxiety is. It's a lie. That's what depression is. It's a way for your brain to lie to you. Um, and I wouldn't have gotten here without therapy, and I wouldn't have gotten here without support and help and all of that stuff. But yeah, I mean, the things that people say to you, they really have a lasting effect, and they've had a lasting effect on me for too many years, and I just decided to stop letting it have any kind of power over me. Was
I'm so
that
sorry
too
for
deep?
you.
Should I give you a
No,
simpler
I
answer?
am sorry for your loss, and I was reading what you had to say, and a lot of it was really beautiful, and I felt as much as one could, being this far apart.
Thanks, man.
Uh,
Yeah.
by all accounts, by everybody who's met your mother, she was absolutely beautiful in every which way, and
She was awesome. Yeah.
you have inherited that. So even if you feel shitty about yourself, I think maybe think back to that woman and see what everybody had to say about that, and you have a bit of her in you. So how
Yeah,
can you
exactly.
not be beautiful if you have a bit of how? Anytime you feel like you're not beautiful, think back to that woman.
Yeah, that's a good philosophy. I will
I mean, you
add
just
that
have
to the list.
ये देख, यही आपको अंदाजा होता है कि दुनिया कितनी हेटर है, और जो लोग, आई मीन, आई थिंक फंडामेंटली पाकिस्तान का एक मेंटल हेल्थ क्राइसिस है, राइट? लोगों, no fault of their own, a lot of people live really hateful lives,
We're
right?
very traumatized. Man, we're a very traumatized nation.
So
We're very traumatized.
the only way they can come to terms with how terrible their lives are by bringing others down. कि यार मेरी जिंदगी इतनी बुरी है, ये नहीं कि मैं अपने आप को कहीं बनाऊं या कुछ बनाऊं. Like for instance, if all of Twitter is like, जी why are you a comedian? भाई आप बन जाएं. Nobody sees that मैंने 12 साल shows किए हैं, काम किया है. People are just like, why do I not have this? Why do I? And I get it, right? If you work at a 9 to 8 and you think ये तो एक रात में इतना कमा लेता है जितना मैं महीने में, हाँ वो 3 महीने में एक रात आती है ना, तो वो 3 महीने नहीं चलते घर आपका.
Yeah, exactly.
10 साल लगे वो एक रात तक आपको पहुंचने के लिए.
Yeah.
But they don't see that, right? So then they just be like कि ये, the only way they can process that jealousy or envy is hate. And आपसे बात करके मुझे लग रहा है astrology has a point, because if we were born on the same day and we've lived the same lives, because heavy relate. I mean, बीच में एक meme है,
Heavy, yeah.
have you seen that, वो जो butterfly उड़ा रहा होता है, so it's like वो butterfly उड़ा रहा होता है and it's like a new creative project. Is this my entire existence? And that's exactly if I have a creative project, I'm like, मैं यही हूँ, मैं इसके अलावा
absolutely.
I am my podcast. I don't
Absolutely.
exist beyond this. And मेरी सारी self worth जो है ना, वो attach हो जाती है उस creative project से. And same, right? Whether it's debate competitions, quiz competitions, plays, I would just do everything to be like, hey guys, look, I'm amazing, right? Look at how cool I am. And I didn't realize I was a person that belonged just because he existed. I thought I would do
and there's,
I do.
there's something about just being present. Yeah, there's something just about not being any of this stuff. I'm not a musician. I'm not a singer. I'm not an artist. I'm just present. I'm here. And the here that I'm in right now happens to be this life where I make music and I make art and I talk to people and I teach. I have these things that I do currently, but none of them are me. I think the me that I am,
मुझे अभी मैं tattoo करवाने वाला हूँ. I'm gonna get like cone, because I think one of my realizations is this: being is enough. Like even in social settings, my first inclination would be like, start being funny, start doing something. justify your existence. Why else would you be here if you weren't a
Exactly. Oh
clown
my
for
God,
going?
hard relate. Hard relate.
तो ये realize करना
Oof,
कि
I've done this for years. I have done this for years. Like I walk into a space and I'm like, okay, who am I entertaining right now? Like that was my entire the point of me in a room was to be either the entertainer or the nurturer. One of those two things. I was never just, can you sit? Just sit on that seat. Okay. Can you look at the painting in front of you?
you've done a good job.
30 steps ahead.
I'm sure you get that as well. कि गाना सुना दें. But I think it's even worse with comedians, right? Where people literally
Please
like,
jokes and
yeah, they don't even say that. They're like, why aren't you being funny? Like, I can
like
exist,
right now.
right? I can eat.
Why aren't you funny right now in this moment? Yes. Where's the pie? Why isn't it on your face?
8 out of my 10 Bumble matches. We expected more from a comedian. Bro, तू टिकट लेके शो पे आओ ना यार. ये तूने मुफ्त के शो की तुम लोगों को. So yeah, just like मैं कोई political opinion share कर दूं and people like, you think you are comedy king. Like, no, I just think sucks. This is
यार
not funny.
मैंने stupid happiness theory की जो गाना निकाला है तो there's that picture of her with the glasses on her ship. And someone replied to me in my story saying, wow, bhai, full driving shriving. Someone killed me.
Driving a boat?
Yeah.
Sailing?
She's riding a spaceship. You should watch the video.
Cool. Is it animated?
Yeah. Yes, it's animated.
Nice.
Have a Little Faith. It's animated by Mariam Ali, who is incredible. Last year in her Indus in Karachi, and she's awesome. And it was lovely working with her, and videos turned out fantastic. It's like the origin story of Stupid Happiness Theory. There's a part 2 coming also.
Nice. सारे links मैं भेज दूंगा जिसको check out करना है, please उसको check out करें. If I, now that you're saying this, if I think back to when I met you for the first time, again, a decade or so ago, वो जो चीजें होती है ना, where people think these are really good traits to have, where you walk into a room, you light up the room, you're so positive. And I remember हम second जब कुछ खास store पे आए हुए थे and Zeb and Hania were sitting in line 3 and I was just awestruck, right? Because I loved it. And I was just like, man, so baat bhi kaise karoon? And you're like, मैं कर लेता हूँ. You just walked up and I was like, how does this person exist, right? Like, how can you go up to people and talk to them? ये कैसे हो सकता है? ये थोड़ी हो सकता है कि आप किसी जाके, like, you want to talk to somebody, you go and you say hi and you're like, we're doing a show, why don't you come? And then we made him part of the improv troupe as well. It was easier for me to get them on stage, make fun of them almost, do a scene with them, than it was for me at a restaurant
actually talk to them,
go and be like, hi, I like your music. To say that's a lot more difficult. And I was just like, yeah, how is she so comfortable? We walk into Kuch Khas and you're like, hi, I'm Natasha. And I'm like, yeah, itna charisma, itni positivity, itni comfort kaise aa rahi hai? All that was a show, Natasha.
No. I don't think it was a show. I think it's still I think there's certain parts of me that just have always been like that. I remember I got invited to Stepma in Lahore. It was an award ceremony and I was nominated for one of the categories. And Abdullah Siddiqui was also nominated for one of the categories. And he had never been to anything before, let alone be nominated for an award at the award ceremony. He's most likely going to win the award. And legitimately, like, I spent the whole night with him and I was like, okay, what do you need? He's like, well, my mom's sitting in the back. Can you try to get her? I just stood up and I spoke to one of the guys and I was like, oh, no, she's the nominee. Parents, can you have her sit with us? Like, I just assume control. I don't know. It's very natural. It's always, I've been a natural leader my entire life for the same reason. Like, I can, there's walk into a room and who am I entertaining right now? But there's also walk into a room and, okay, we have work to do. And I almost like, I can see in a room when someone's having an awkward time or they're having difficulty like communicating. And I can almost always sort of help them overcome it by just doing it myself and then allowing them to be in a space that's comfortable. It's what they wanted. They just don't know how to ask for it. I know how to ask for things. I don't know why I know how to ask for things.
इसको empath कहते हैं और इसको Capricorn भी कहते हैं because
इसको Capricorn.
मेरी जो bipolar tendencies है ना, either I have two modes. Either I'm like going to be that person when I'm like, okay, what does everybody need? Or I'm going to do nothing. Or I'm going to be into corner and being like, मुझे घर जाना है. I don't want to be here.
मेरे साथ ये
I can't just exist. I can't just exist in silence and just be like, nahi, I belong here. It's justified for me to just sit and do nothing. Either I'm entertaining or I'm taking control. I'm doing something to justify me being.
I understand that. I can relate to that. I actually started. It was like I was blissfully unaware of this in my teens and my tweens, by the way. My tweens, my teens, and my 20s. I was like not even aware of the fact that there's another side to me. I was just in control once I got into a space. That's why college was so amazing for me, because I was older than everybody in my class. But I was also, because of that, and I went to college already having released music in Pakistan. I went to college having already doing theater in Pakistan. I went mid-pro professional life into college. So once I got to college, I was just like, yeah, there's this annual show. I will help you with the costumes. I'll help you with choreography. I'll help you with this. I'm also performing for it. I'm also doing this. Fantastic. You know, just doing really well in classes also. And it would just be one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other, until I think my grief started catching up with me in my late 20s and into my 30s. For the last 7 to 8 years, I think I've just been processing grief, because my father passed away when I was much younger. I was like 19 or 20 when my father passed away. And that was in 2008. And I'd literally gone from my father passing away into taking a 3-day break from the play that was on stage at the time, and then going back and doing the play, which happened to be, and this is the irony, Lion King. Can you believe it? Just can you for a second, for a moment, like your father has just passed away, and 4 days later, I was Nala.
Okay, close enough.
Yeah, I was Nala, close enough, and then there was just a lot of
wow.
There's a lot
crying
of overlap,
on stage.
and and
audience would be like, यार कितनी believable acting कर रही है.
और उसके फौरन बाद मैंने जॉब करनी शुरू कर दी. मैं 89 पे मार्केटिंग शुरू कर दी. That was my first ever proper job. I was the marketing executive for City FM 89 for like a year, and then I quit that because I wasn't getting any time to study music, and I started working at a school where I was helping with the extracurriculars of like A levels and above, like O and A levels. So I used to get done at 3-4 p.m. The whole impetus for that was that I can join singing classes. I used to do school, I used to go to singing classes, I used to come back home. So and then उसके 2 साल के बाद मैं college चली गई. मैं college गई तो college के बाद मैं तो रुकी नहीं ना. फिर मुझे eventually it started hitting me that I have lost. And I didn't know what loss meant, even though I'd experienced it, but I hadn't stopped to absorb it, and I hadn't stopped to process it. And so when I stopped, I think everything just sort of came crashing down all at the same time. And in those years, I was very confused about who I was. I remember you and I used to do a lot of comedy together, and I remember telling you that मैं एक ही चीज पे focus कर सकती हूँ इस वक्त, because the rest of my time was being spent being depressed. And really insanely depressed, can't get out of bed depressed, making terrible choices for myself depressed, too depressed to function. I could only handle one thing at a time, because otherwise I just felt like I'm going manic. And I think it's at the end.
I met one of those terrible choices recently.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
कह रहा हूँ यार.
Look at that painting, my mother made it.
It's actually pretty beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, this is all her work.
Good deflection.
She was the OG, yeah. Anyway, so super depressed. And just trying to somehow like not let anyone know that I'm depressed. And I think that was the worst of it. I think the worst of it was that I felt like I couldn't talk about it because I felt very alone, and I was never alone, Shazad. I've had the best of friends for the longest of times, and I'm never by myself, no matter what city I am in.
Not even on a two-seater.
Just on a two-seater. That's the real one. That's when I'm actually alone. Yes, I'm always alone when I'm traveling. Thank you for reminding me of that. But कहने का मतलब ये, you just feel more isolated than you are, I suppose. And I didn't want to, and it wasn't that I didn't think people had anything to share or to help me by. I think mostly it was just that I didn't want to put burdens on other people. And as I've grown older, I've also just recognized if someone wants to be there, they're there. If they don't want to be there, they're not. Like if someone is there with an open ear, then they're there. Just stop feeling the guilt. I think it's more, like, I don't know if it's growing up in Pakistan, maybe you can relate to this, but just there's a lot of guilt. There's a lot of guilt for a lot of things. And I think that was, it guides you in a strange way.
Yeah, I think the moment you hit rock bottom and you see yourself groveling for somebody's love, and I don't mean in a relationship, I mean even in a friendship, it's just like, yaar, ye main kyun kar raha hu? If this person wanted to do this person would do this, right? Like it's
much simpler. That's why the moniker is Stupid Happiness Theory, because I think we're running around in circles for something that's much simpler than
and I'm starting to feel this is where I am. I'm back there right now. I think a few years back when I was quite depressed, it took a lot to come out of that, and COVID's really knocked me right back down. And वो यही होता है कि you're like, we're just surviving. अभी तो हालात खराब हैं. ये एक unhealthy coping mechanism is so much better than what other people are doing. वो 1 से 2 हो जाता है, 2 से 3 हो जाता है. And I feel like मैं नहीं acknowledge कर रहा how much of a toll this entire pandemic has taken on me. And the worst thing you can do is not acknowledge how you're feeling.
Yeah. I have felt so relieved ever since I've started just seeing it. It's a down day. I can't make it. And I don't feel embarrassed about it anymore. I don't feel guilty about it anymore. You know, a lot of my work has to do with education and teaching children. And I started giving myself days in the week where I'm not doing classes. So I have time to process the week. Because if I don't, and I get too depressed, and if I get too depressed, I don't want to teach children because I don't want them, you know, children are sensitive to energy, and I don't want them to have to deal with energy that is not good for them. But yeah, man, it's a constant process.
Is there any truth to take your broken heart, turn it into art?
Yeah, for me it is. Yeah, I've almost always done that.
Yeah, probably even before you even realize that's what you were doing. Because there is an underlying sadness to a lot of your earlier work.
Yeah, there is. You know, my family used to call me and be like, Natasha, it's beautiful, but why are you writing such sad music? I don't know, that's my experience.
Because and I think people also saw you and they're like, वो लोगों को नहीं अब जरा फिर भी ज़्यादा समझ में आ गई है. But if people met you at a social setting, you'd be like, what a happy, positive person. And then you hear the music and you're like, this kid needs to be on suicide watch.
It was never that bad. But I think what I've been healthily doing my entire life is speaking my truth. And I think that's where music has been a real tool for me. I think I would have been on suicide watch had I not had music, probably.
आई थिंक ये भी वजह है कि हम आर्ट्स नहीं प्रमोट करते. आई थिंक वी वांट पीपल. अगर आप लोगों को आर्टिस्ट बना देंगे तो आपकी फैक्ट्री पे अंडरपेड कौन काम करेगा, आपकी वॉर्स कौन लड़ेगा, आप किन की लाशों पे पैसे कमाएंगे. सो वी डोंट वांट टू प्रमोट द आर्ट्स. अगर हम नाम का वो बजट डाल भी दें, जिस तरह
So
एजुकेशन का
tragic.
बजट है goes into people's pockets, that's where the arts budget goes. It's not to create artists. Pakistan has no interest in creating artists.
Pakistan needs more artists than ever before.
या वही जो लोग होते हैं ना, कहते हैं कि क्या यूजलेस काम है, इंजीनियर डॉक्टर बन जाओ. क्या किया आप लोगों ने कोविड में? आर्ट देखा ना, म्यूजिक की वजह से आप जिंदा हैं.
Exactly. Oh my
वजह से
God,
आप
so
जिंदा हैं.
on point. I had this feeling right at the beginning of COVID too. I was like, now you need us.
Yeah. But वही
I used to
feeling वापस
be
नहीं आ
on
रही थी.
lives every day. I used to be on lives every day on like there was a lot of sadness and people really needed and to be
But
uplifted.
isn't that the same feeling came back? Because I also started doing lives. मैं और मुइज़ बहुत ही entertaining shows करते थे Instagram lives पे. जिन्होंने देख लिए जिन्होंने नहीं देखे अल्लाह का शुक्र है आपने नहीं देखे. But you know, your instinct kicked in. You're like, you know, frontline health workers frontline पे हैं, हम क्या करेंगे? हम entertain करेंगे, यही तो हमारा काम है.
Yeah.
It just
उस मोमेंट में लाइक आधी हीलिंग मेरी हो रही थी, आधी उनकी हो रही थी. लाइक मुझे आई नीडेड समथिंग टू डू. I really needed something to do that was like, man, it was, if you really think about it, it was hard.
Yeah.
What the entire globe went through. It wasn't limited to a country or a region or a continent. Why is my hair acting like an idiot?
I don't even bother really now. My hair is as free as I am. It decides every day how it wants to be, and I just
मेरे बाल के साथ
I think शुरू के एंड तक पॉडकास्ट भी अब ये जरा सेटल हो गया. I'm just like, तुम लोगों ने जो करना है तुम लोग करो, तुम्हारी मर्जी है. I'm just glad at my
you
age
live
to
your
have
best
hair.
life.
As a man,
you live your best life.
As a man at 32, I have hair. I think that's an accomplishment.
That's pretty impressive. As a female at 33,
you're older than me. I thought we were born on the same day.
I think year might be different. Are you 87?
झूठ बोला था मुझसे. I'm 89. उम्र छुपा रही थी ना मुझसे.
89, yeah. So I'm 88. क्या मैंने अपना साल ऑफ बर्थ बता दिया? मैं क्या छुपा रही हूँ? मैं तो तुम्हें बता रही हूँ कि मैं अपनी एज नहीं लगती. मैं तो लगती हूँ कोई भी 20-22 साल की.
इतनी मुझे खुशी होती है ना कभी अगर मैं किसी यूनिवर्सिटी में जाऊँ किसी काम के लिए and they're like student card है, and I'm like अरे गार्ड ये 500 रुपए आप रख लें प्लीज. Then they're like वो MBA का पूछ रहे थे हम लूज. So you know, like you mentioned the bullying thing, and I also feel like यार वो आपकी instinct kick in हो जाती है स्कूल में, like especially with me, like dude, don't be the guy everybody's making fun of. Start making fun of somebody else. So when we think about to that comedy, it seemed you were quite comfortable joking about it yourself. Was it like a defense mechanism कि हाँ ठीक है, मैं जिस तरह वो Tyrion Jon Snow को बोलता है, you're a bastard, wear it as a badge of armor and nobody can hurt you with it. Was it that thing कि यार मैं अगर खुद इसका मजाक उड़ा लूं तो और लोग मुझे इससे hurt नहीं कर सकते?
शायद शुरू में यही था. हाँ, शायद शुरू में. अब but with comedy it was never. I think with comedy was just if it was relevant, I didn't have, like, I don't have a problem with the fact that I'm dark skinned. You get it? Like, you can comment on my dark skin and I won't have a problem with it because I do have dark skin. What I have a problem with is not being given the opportunity to perhaps be in an improv troupe because I'm dark skinned.
I'm hoping that's not based on a true story.
No, I'm just trying to tell you the difference between the things that, you know, you can, like, the issue isn't that you have a problem with the truth. If I had a problem with the truth, I would get injections done and a bunch of surgeries done and look whiter than I am right now. So I don't have a problem with the color of my skin because I'm Pakistani and this is what I'm supposed to look like. My problem is not being given opportunity because of my dark skin. My problem is not being considered for acting roles because of, you know, my dark skin and my bunty nose and stuff like that. I have a problem with and that those opportunities being taken from me enough times for me not even to want to try anymore. That's the really sad part. It's like
I'm there,
I think I'm a talented actress. I think I'm a talented comedian. But like, why should I audition for something now? Why? Like, I know what I'm gonna hear. I know I'm not gonna look good on your camera. I know that I'm not gonna look like. It's fine. It's okay.
You're going to look good. You might not look like what they want. And I'm in the same boat here. I mean, मैं जाकर पढ़कर थिएटर न्यूयॉर्क में इम्प्रोव और एक्टिंग करके वापस आया और मैंने पाकिस्तान में नहीं की. Because it doesn't matter, right? And I genuinely feel like कि वो muscle अब trophy हो चुका है. Like I just don't feel like acting anymore as well because I'm like अब तो हो गए 5-6 साल since I've done it because in Pakistan you have to look a certain way. Right?
Yeah.
That's what they expect.
Absolutely.
और the other option is कि ये आप मतलब literally मुझे बुलाकर channel ये एक पठान का रोल है. अच्छा क्या रोल है? वो गया था बकरा मंडी. ये 100% सच्ची स्टोरी है. एग्जैक्ट ये स्क्रिप्ट थी. ये बकरा मंडी गया था. ये बकरे की जगह गधा ले आया. अच्छा तो ये क्या है? ये कॉमेडी है ना? क्या इसमें कॉमेडी है? वो उसको लगा गधा बकरा था और पठान लिखा हुआ है. बस that's it. That's the only one insulting term that they have for them. I mean, obviously, I was like, fuck off. You guys are idiots.
What? It sounds like the role of a lifetime, Shahad.
I swear I missed out, yaar. ये मुझे Oscar nomination.
Yeah, Oscar. Exactly.
संटा सिंह बट्टा सिंह jokes जो ये लोग कर रहे थे ना. So either it was material like this, बंदा क्या करे, or it was like you have to look a certain way to be a hero. तो
hero.
मैंने भी छोड़ दिया. I'm just like
Aसल में, you know, I mean, my complaint is essentially that there is no space created for scripts that could be about anything else. That's basically what it means. It means that the only space carved out in that sphere right now is for the heroine, the hero, and everything that's supporting attached to them. But there's no other stories being told. There's practically no other stories being told. There's a husband-wife story. There's a spouse-sister story. There's the impending violence towards one gender or the other. Like there's barely any stories that are being told, which could require someone that doesn't necessarily have to look your standard of beauty. Nobody's writing it. If they're writing it, those scripts aren't getting accepted because, I mean, it just works differently. So respect to Asim Abbasi and Kamal Khan, Sunil Shankar. There's some people, Hamza Bhangash, they're making films, they're making web series that are, you know, they're telling different stories, and that's amazing.
Yeah, which is why when Chudail's called, I was like, yes, 100%. So, but there's very little work like that being done. No? There's very little work like that being done. And honestly, I think even with, they struggled with casting a lot. Because जब आप pool देखते हैं acting का, there's only certain kind of people, right? अगर वो वही ड्रामे बन रहे होंगे, you're stuck unless आप जाकर लोगों को खुद ट्रेन करके एक long term process करें. आपके पास pool में वही लोग हैं, उसी pool में से लेना है. Did a good job. Some people did not because उनको समझ नहीं आया कि ये web series की tonality is not the same as a थप्पड़ मारने वाले ड्रामे की tonality. And maybe when a lot more work like that is being done, then people will find the language, right? कि अगर लोग sushi खाएंगे तो sushi restaurants खोलेंगे ना. So if people get a taste for that sort of acting, then people will emerge and will learn that craft. अभी जरूरत नहीं है उसकी, कोई है कुछ को खानी नहीं है sushi तो चल रहे हैं बद कबाब खाते रहे. Not that one is better than the other. It's just we need both. We need everything, and हो नहीं रहा वो. What's your artistic process? Ye Ehsan Bari is quite interested, who's a phenomenal musician himself. He was like, I'm very interested in Natasha's artistic process.
That's what it is. Obsession.
Under pressure.
Let's see, what is my...
बताएं आप. जवाब दें क्या है प्रोसेस आपका?
फर्क चीजों के लिए फर्क है. कैसे बताऊं, करना होता है बस. एक एक जहन में एक जगह होती है जहाँ पे पहुंचना होता है, एक फीलिंग होती है जहाँ पे पहुंचना होता है. तो वो उस फीलिंग को सेटिस्फाई करने के लिए जो भी मुझे उस मोमेंट में समझ आता है मैं करती हूँ. I write music to I write music to I don't, the objective with music making for me is to create soundscapes that incite an emotion in you. And it's a very specific emotion that I'll be feeling. And I want to create a space for that emotion to exist in a song. So in that moment, whatever chord, whatever melody, whatever progression, whatever beat, whatever element it is that helps me define that easiest, like one of those things where when you hear that has an instant effect, right? That riff from a Billie Jean has an instant effect on you. And that's like the simplest way to define it, that one element is what starts you off, and anything that I need to do in order to tell the story after that is my process. So if I have to go deeply into studying, like there's projects I've done, for instance, I had to score a little while ago, I did a nature documentary, but more recently I did a dance documentary and I scored them. And so for these projects, I've had to dive headfirst into studying orchestration and into studying synths on a deeper level. So I will go headfirst into studying that, revising everything that I already know, and then studying whatever it is that I feel like I further need to learn. And I see the process through that way. And the emotion that I'm getting to is very like, that's the target in my head. And the minute I feel that emotion is when I stop working on the mix. When I stop, I was like, okay, if I've incited that within myself today, then it has to be good enough for anybody else, essentially.
Are you regimented about it कि यार ये मेरे हफ्ते का schedule है, इनके 3 घंटे मैं इधर बैठती हूँ?
Sort of. So I've regimented in a way that I have days divided where I do more office and teaching related work. So 3 days a week, I'll do my classes back to back, and I'll do any emails, I'll do all of that office stuff. And 3 days of the week, I don't have any plans. I have access to my instruments and I have access to my setup, and whether it's, sometimes I'm working on projects for other people. So if I need to finish work on that, tuning चल रही होती है, कभी कोई काम चल रहे होते हैं, मैंने टास्क पे डिवाइड किया हुआ होता है कामों को. तो कुछ काम होते हैं जो खज्जल ख्वारी में कहती हूँ, जिसके अंदर आपने बैठ के ट्यूनिंग करनी होती है, आपने एडिट करने होते हैं, आपने फेड करने होते हैं. वो काम उतना ही जरूरी है जितना आपका मेकिंग म्यूजिक वाला काम है. तो कुछ दिन मैंने उसके लिए असाइन किए हुए होते हैं, और कुछ दिन मैंने सिर्फ असाइन किए हुए होते हैं कि मेरे पास like 7 घंटे हो to spare if I want to sit with a keyboard and just practice or do that kind of thing. I also have regimented classes that I attend. So I'm almost always either learning dance or singing. And I, for some months in the middle, I joined like a songwriters collective globally, and we were writing a new song every week. So yeah, I'm a very disciplined artist, but I've disciplined my free time, if that makes any sense, because I also recognize
as I'm getting older
that I need free time.
I think the only true freedom is in a schedule. I think that's true freedom. Not being like मुझे नहीं पता मैं कल कब उठूंगा, वो जो बचपन में आपका दिल चाहता है ना, जब मर्जी. That's not freedom. You're a slave to yourself and your instincts and your impulses. But मेरा एक और मसला ये है कि क्योंकि मैं स्पेक्ट्रम पे भी हूँ, तो मीनिया भी होता है मुझे. रात के 3 बजे एक आइडिया आएगा and I'm in bed, and as much as my therapist has been like, you need to shut off your brain and sleep, then I'll be like, no, अभी लैपटॉप खोलो and start typing. Do you have that, or do you
I
like
can.
you've learned to
I
set that
do.
aside? Ke ye ab subah hi hoga.
It's hard. I don't think I've really conquered it yet. Some days I manage to do it, but like if it comes like an आमद आ रही है तो I have to do it. मैंने अपनी जिंदगी ऐसी बनाई हुई है कि मुझे मैं जहाँ पर भी होती हूँ मेरे पास स्पेसिफिक अमाउंट ऑफ गियर होता है और स्पेसिफिक अमाउंट ऑफ इंस्ट्रूमेंटेशन होती है और फिर एक साइड पे स्केच बुक्स भी होती हैं, कुछ पेन्स होते हैं, वो जो टूल्स है ना आपके, वो सारे मैं अपने पास रखती हूँ और किसी भी वक्त कुछ भी हो सकता है, तो यू शुड जस्ट बी रेडी फॉर योरसेल्फ. आई थिंक देयर इज एन एक्सेप्टेंस. So for instance, in quarantine, I remember like रात दिन था, दिन रात थी, कोई टाइम कुछ शुरू में मैं बात कर रही हूँ, और फिर कुछ घंटे सोती रहती थी, फिर उठ जाती थी, फिर सोती थी, फिर उठ जाती थी, और फिर बहुत बुरा लगता है कि मैं उस वक्त क्यों सोई, उस वक्त मुझे उठ के वो काम करना था, और just a lot of self deprecation and hate and all of that, until one day I was just like, this is ridiculous. If you wake up at 3 in the morning and you have a fresh mind, do it. Use your fresh mind. And once you're done using your fresh mind, go to sleep. It's okay. It's fine. If it happens in the middle of the night, but your mind is fresh, there's a difference, no? You can have a rested mind in the middle of the night also. If you're lucky enough to wake up with a rested, fresh mind, and in that moment you really want to accomplish something, just do it. And know that, like, I pat myself on the back knowing that I didn't waste a moment. But also in that moment, if I want to wake up and just sit on the balcony, this is what I do for hours now, Shadad. So proud of myself. I've never done this. I just sit and stare outside my balcony for hours. I have never given myself the privilege to do that. To sit in a garden for no reason. To sit on a balcony and just look at the birds in the sky and the trees. I think really the answer is in not giving yourself grief over anything. You wake up, you're manic, you need to say this thing, say it. Don't hate yourself for it. And don't think you should be doing something else. You're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing at any point.
How did you get to a place where you can sit in silence with yourself? Because I feel like I have really regressed in this quarantine. I was a lot better at just going to the beach, sitting there for hours. But like, I think मैं इसलिए भी इतनी incessantly podcast सुनता हूँ कि if I don't have background noise, I start panicking. Like अगर मैं bathroom चला जाऊँ और मेरे पास phone नहीं हो, with shit smearing over myself, I'll walk out and be like, मेरा phone कहाँ है? I can't sit on the toilet. Sorry for that graphic image. That has not happened ever.
I'm looking at you right now.
Imagining, don't please. खुदा के वास्ते ऐसा
see the whole thing. अब हो गया.
I'm just painting a picture to let you know how desperate it is.
अब हो गया.
नहीं हो ना, अगर music ना हो, podcast ना हो, कुछ भी ना हो, and I'm just sitting in silence for 60 seconds without staring at my phone, I start panicking. So, did you do meditation? What did you do to get there?
I tried to disengage my mind and start engaging my senses.
कैसे?
मतलब अगर मैं थॉट लूप में फंसी हुई होती हूँ, तो अगर मुझे रिकग्नाइज हो जाए कि मैं थॉट लूप में फंसी हुई हूँ, तो मैं एक्टिवली अपनी आंखें खोल के किसी चीज को देखना, किसी ऑब्जेक्ट को, किसी चीज को, कमरे को देखना शुरू हो जाएंगे, लाइक एक्चुअली देखना, नॉट जस्ट. हाँ. और again, sitting on the balcony and just taking in the city. I mean, Karachi doesn't smell as good as this.
That's been my COVID test throughout. I just go out and I smell and I'm like, Karachi, अब तक तुम्हारे कचरे की smell आ रही है, COVID तो नहीं है, चलो.
Sorry. But like you could do like aromatic stuff, like agarbatti and stuff, and just encourage things that encourage the senses to awaken, right? Like you're kind of doing it all the time when you're listening to a podcast or music in the background, but and that can continue, but just, I don't know, engage your senses, engage your touch, engage a different part of your mind. Like for a minute, become a humanoid. I think that's the best way to put it. Don't become a what is it?
Sentient?
Sentient. Don't become like a sentient being altogether. Just be a humanoid. You are a humanoid. You have a body. This is your nose. These are your eyes. These are your lips. This is your body, and you are literally picking things up and like literally simplify your life and your thought process. Like that's what really helps me.
No, you're right. I think it's just finding calmness in a storm, figuring out what you can control, what you can't control, and
Yeah.
not think about
And
shit you can't
just
control.
knowing that there's really very little that you can control. Honestly, I think free will is how you wake up and how you sleep. That's it. That is free will.
You can manifest anything you want, Natasha. If you put up a poster, I do believe in the power of manifestation, actually. Not
Same.
in terms of the secret, but है ना energies, है ना universe, कुछ ना
हाँ,
कुछ.
लेकिन वो फिर कंट्रोल तो नहीं है ना. वो मैं बताती हूँ, मुझे क्या लगता है, मैं गलत भी हो सकती हूँ. मुझे लगता है it's like throwing yourself into a stream, right? You're like throwing yourself into a river, you've thrown yourself into a stream. You can either go with the flow of the stream and like embrace it and turn with it and understand it, or you could like be confused and like constantly be, you know,
Hammered
the
by the
resistance.
rock.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like throwing yourself into a stream and letting yourself flow. So what's happening in the universe and the manifestation, I'd be surprised if we didn't get ideas for prayers and we didn't get ideas for things that we want to do out of some universal sort of, a desire to show you what your path of least resistance will be in the future. So I always knew I was going to be a musician because I jumped into the stream and I went with the flow, and I could have gone against the flow and become a business person or a lawyer or done any of those things. I was very good at other things also. But I think it would have not been the path of least resistance for me. I think that's how I look at it. I think manifestation plays, I think it goes hand in hand with your ability to just recognize a miracle. Like miracles are happening every day.
यार ये बहुत खूबसूरत बात है. Your ability to recognize a miracle. I think not real. Even I think being alive, waking up every morning and being like मैं जिंदा हूँ, it's quite a miracle. And in terms of the stream, if you have to throw yourself in the stream every morning and be there till evening, I think it's a good idea to take swimming lessons in your...
I'm sorry, my brother. Yeah, I take swimming lessons. My brother's laughing at me. I think I went too deep for him.
In the stream?
Why are you laughing at me? Do you want to come in?
Hi, bhai.
We're recording a podcast. We're doing a podcast. What are you laughing at? He's like, you look like you came out of finishing school. I'm sitting all proper and stuff.
तो हाँ, वो manifestation ये है कि अगर आप train करते हैं अपने आप को रोज, I mean, if whatever you want to do, right? So if you're a musician, if you're going to school, studying, and then you're also manifesting being an artist, yeah, you're doing the work as well. You're doing both things. You're visualizing.
Exactly.
Maybe if you stay in bed and not do anything to make things happen, and you're just be like, मैं manifest कर रहा हूँ और मैं करूँगा कुछ नहीं. शायद universe बोलेगा कि नल्ले.
Your mom is knocking at the door. You have to get to work. Mama manifest.
हाँ.
Mama manifesting हो रही है अभी ठहर.
लोग जब वहाँ पहुँच जाते हैं ना, then I'm like, नहीं बेटा, आपका कुछ भी नहीं होगा. मुझे इतने लोग मैसेज आते हैं, they're like, सर मुझे एक्टर बना दें. I'm like, what do you do? सर मैं अकाउंटेंट हूँ. आपने कभी नहीं की नहीं है, आप बना दें, आप एक चांस तो दे दें. आज लाइक यार आप नापा ज्वाइन नहीं सर, मैंने पढ़ना नहीं है, मैंने बस करना है. तो वो if you don't do anything and you just believe कि हाँ यूनिवर्स देगा तो फिर नहीं देगा. Do the work and then और हो सकता है फिर भी ना हो, but I mean you've gone through the process, right? You've given your best. That's all you can do.
What your control is on like how you will spend that day, and on a smaller level how you will spend each moment. I have control over when I wake up and what I do when I wake up. What's the first thing that I do? What I don't have control over is
अगर Jordan Peterson की आप बात से make your beds. Make your bed.
Make your bed. if that's what you want to do. I almost never make my bed, but I get straight into practice of some kind, and I get into practice because it makes my day better to practice. I don't practice because I think 5 years from now I'm going to be on what's the coolest stage in the world? What's that one in England? I don't know, whatever. I practice. So like I'm not. I don't practice for that. I practice because practice brings me joy on a daily basis. And if I'm having fun on a daily basis, then whatever is supposed to happen, I'll be prepared for it. I can just be prepared for life. I can't control it.
So बीच में आपने जो आमद की बात की थी, do you get a melody, do you get a lyric, or is it different at different times?
Changes almost every time.
So I'm curious कि अगर let's say अगर एक melody आती है, do you just be like यार ये आ रही है and then sit on an instrument and be like ये जहाँ जा रही है इसको जाने दो, निकालो अपने अंदर से?
First thing I do is I literally just, if I'm getting a melody specifically, I just record it on a phone. That's the first thing I do, and then I'll go back to it and wonder if something can be made of it. And if it still strikes a chord in me a week or two later, then I'll sit and maybe write lyrics for it and make a progression for it or a treatment for it. Sometimes it's like, I had this idea the other day. So can't remember it right now, sorry. Basically, a lot of the times it'll just happen that I'll get like a hook. नहीं याद आ रहा मुझे, but खैर होता है कभी-कभी that I just get hooked, and in those moments I just quickly record. And sometimes the urge is super strong, like with Abhi Abhi, with Rakib, with what was the other one? Even with Soe Nahi to a certain degree. There are a couple of songs that just sort of came, and Right Way to Fall also. They just came the way they were, and I just had to sort of make sure that I'm honed in on that moment. Ek Din is a song that I'm releasing this year after Ramzan. And that was definitely just a 15-minute writer. And then once I was done with it, I decided to extend the song and put like a second verse to it. In which case, here's the interesting thing. I went back like 13 to 14 years. I'm a serial hoarder. I've never deleted a single audio, even if it's a 30-second draft. If I can help it, I've never deleted it, and I've kept backups. I remember going back to a song that I'd written called Khatra. And this was last year, I was sitting and writing the second verse for this, and I suddenly realized that second verse fits this song better than it ever did the original, so I put it in this one. So yeah, that's kind of also my process. I have like this crazy confident faith in the moment. So if in the moment I'm getting something, I will always document it, because I believe that everything that I've ever done is going to help me at some other point.
Improv training. Improv training, the value of the moment. You really learn. Just be in the moment, just exist. Forget what's happening.
Man, so Shazad, recently, with all this live stuff, I've just started doing improv songs. Like I'll literally just do a whole song improvised on Instagram Live. That's just like, it's so much fun. It is so much fun. I can't wait to do a show.
Comedy or actual songs? Jo aa jaye.
Both. हाँ. पूरे गाने. और मुझे लगता था कि मेरा instrument weak है. Like I'm not as good a guitar player as I would want to be, but like I'm learning about myself that I'm good enough to improvise a progression live. I think I should cut myself some slack. But yeah, like I'll just start improvising songs. I'll start improvising. I'll start telling people to send me comments, and then I'll turn them into lyrics. It's fun.
Lin-Manuel Miranda, freestyle time. Your 3 words are Pakistan, Van Gogh, ₹50.
That's not happening.
Yo, I think you like Van Gogh. We said last, you said no, but here we are. Zardari says,
Hey,
"Khape." Look at us, khape. Yo.
hey,
Faris, who's the rapper now, bro? Ab bata.
Who's the rapper now?
Faris on the mic.
Faris is awesome.
So अगर आप इतनी multifaceted artist हैं, so sometimes if you're like यार ये कहानी आ रही है मुझे बतानी है, does the story find its medium or do you be like यार इसको गाना बनना चाहिए, इसको play बनना चाहिए, इसको scene बनना चाहिए?
Good question. I think like medium के साथ आता है वो, like मैं जब लिखने बैठती हूँ तो एक बहुत specific voice होती है. जब मैं प्रोज या प्लेज लिखने बैठती हूँ तो एक बहुत स्पेसिफिक आवाज होती है, और जब मैं गायकी लिखने बैठती हूँ तो बहुत स्पेसिफिक आवाज होती है. और कभी कभी एक्चुअली मैंने ना ये क्वारंटीन में कुछ एक्सपेरिमेंट किए थे जो मैंने कभी रिलीज नहीं किए. There were interesting spoken word rap pieces. I never thought I'd be like, I've done a rap song in the past, but it was a funny rap song. It was called "And Then He Said," and it was like about this woman falling in love with a zombie. So it was really just bizarre and just a strange song.
Very on brand for Insolent Nights. Sketch line.
Yeah. But more recently, I actually just started writing rap. And it's not really rap, it's just spoken word. And I haven't done anything with it yet because I think I have a really high timbred voice and I sound so funny if I was rapping.
Sneak peek. Honest feedback.
I'll send it to you.
If I don't like it, I'll tell you.
No, yeah, you can tell me. No, but it's just I sound too funny rapping, so I'd probably never release it. Like in my head, I can only do a rap song if it's obviously a sketch.
हाँ ये डिफेंस मैकेनिज्म है ना कि ओ इफ यू डोंट लाइक इट देन मैं तो वैसे ही जोक कर रही थी.
It was a joke anyway. Jokes on you.
So ये जो आपके मल्टी फैसेटेड आर्टिस्ट आप नताशा हुमेरा एजाज, आपके जो सारे टुकड़े हैं, do you feel like it's a healthy way of living? Because I think maybe मैं अपने टुकड़ों को वापस जोड़ने के फेज में चल रहा हूँ, तो I just feel like यार it's too much of me that I've given in separate places and I can't collect all of them to be like all of this is me. Like I can play the comedian, I can play the podcast host, and all of them are me, but I can't collect all of them together at the end of the day and form a me. I
made an analogy of this a couple of years ago. I felt like Voldemort and his Horcruxes.
मैं हमेशा यही कहता हूँ अपने बारे में. यार हम एस्ट्रोलॉजी का कोई सीन है. I've probably said this a million times to my friends.
A lot of the times I felt like I did this, but then once I sort of realized it, I started, like I have this band called Gintara and I do we're 7 singers. And sometimes I feel like I almost spend more time working on that music than I would my own. And I used to wonder if that's something I need to be careful about because, with people like me and you, I don't know if you go through this, but the other is always more important than the self.
Yeah.
So
at great expense to your own mental.
Yeah, to your own mental, or to your own ability to do things.
हाँ, आप रात के 4 बजे रो रहे होगे about something and somebody will be like, hey, listen, can I talk? Absolutely. What were you doing? Nothing.
Absolutely, yeah. Nothing.
तुम अपने दुखड़े सुनाओ ना.
हाँ, तो वो उसकी वजह से मैं कभी भी सोचती थी कि शायद मैं अपने साथ डिसर्विस कर रही हूँ कि मैं अपने म्यूजिक पे इतना टाइम लगाती हूँ, तो वो कहाँ पे होता है इस वक्त. फिर मुझे अपना म्यूजिक जो टर्म है उससे सवाल पैदा होने शुरू हो गए कि मतलब मैं हूँ, मैं तो जहाँ पर भी एग्जिस्ट कर रही हूँ मैं ही एग्जिस्ट कर रही हूँ, तो ये भी मेरा है, वो भी मेरा है, ये भी मेरा है. इन एसेंस हर चीज जो मुझसे निकली उसका मैं हिस्सा हूँ और वो मेरा एक हिस्सा है. और eventually I think मैंने बस ये करना शुरू किया कि I actually didn't stop spending time on the other projects. I gave as much energy and time and love to those. I just started filling up my moments with me, with more, with less doubt. Because the problem was, by the time I was done with everybody else's work and I came back to my work, I was just sure that I'm doing it wrong. And I think I just started switching that on, honestly, a lot. And it felt like some of the pieces started coming back together. And now I see hints of what I'm doing with Gintara in this album that I'm trying to write, which is like, I don't know when it's coming out. And I, I see hints of SHT now in the NHE work that I do. And it's really interesting for me to allow that over that. Pehle, I used to be very categorically, no, electronica is what I do here. Acoustic is what I do here. And I was like, why are these limitations here? I can do anything.
Do you ever think about कि हम ऐसे हैं इसलिए हम ये काम करते हैं या क्योंकि हम 10-15 साल से ये काम कर रहे हैं तो हम ऐसे बन गए हैं?
मैं तो ऐसी थी, मैं तो बचपन से मैं निकली ऐसी मेरा और कोई मैं बहुत शदीद पर्पस के साथ आई हूँ इस दुनिया में.
But like it's not a normal existence. I think हम दोनों ने live shows बहुत ज़्यादा किए हैं शुरू में especially. So that immediate reaction, right, when that bleeds into your life, when you are like, मुझे अभी validation दो, तुम लोग सारे जो बैठे हो, and when that becomes a drug, the normal existence बहुत मुश्किल हो जाती है when you're used to that immediate validation.
Yeah, I think the validation factor the element has factored into different parts of my life at different, and it was a huge lifting of the veil when I was like, am I really just needing you to tell me that I'm good at this? Do I like really? But my validation didn't come as a drug of like, yes, I want the limelight and yes, I want the love. I think my validation just came from, should I even be doing this? It was one of those things where like
Imposter syndrome.
I was like, please, it was more of an imposter syndrome where I was like, I don't need to be doing this. Why am I doing this? There's other people that said better enough. That shit.
It's not like I'm God now, worship me. It's more like if you're on stage and 100 people are giving you a standing ovation, you're like, oh my God. And then you come home and you're alone and you're with your thoughts and you're feeling like shit. It's like any drug where you get high and you're happy. The low is even lower, right?
Yeah.
सोचा ही नहीं, दर्द गुजार
I remember this is a huge lesson for me. When mom got sick, I had never in my life had to cancel a show or not do a show. And though there were a couple of months in between where so cancer is really unpredictable in its 4th stage and it has like different effects every day. So I could be as prepared as I wanted to be for the next day, but nothing could prepare me for what would happen that day. So on the days of shows, I've had to cancel, which I never thought I would do. And slowly and steadily, I just stopped doing shows for a long time because I'd rather be in a position where I'm not saying yes to work rather than like saying yes to work and then canceling on the day of the job. That's really not something I wanted to do. In those the first couple of months, Shazad, in my life at 30, that I wasn't performing every week or every month. And I wasn't myself. I didn't know, like I couldn't tap into any sort of feeling grounded or identity because मेरी जिंदगी या तो रिहर्सल में होती थी या स्टेज पे होती थी. ये दो एग्जिस्टेंसेस मैंने क्यूरेट की थी अपनी जिंदगी में. या तो मैं जैम कर रही होंगी या मैं स्टेज रिहर्सल में होंगी या मैं उसकी किसी तरह प्रेप कर रही होंगी या मैं एक्चुअली स्टेज पे होंगी, साउंड चेक पे होंगी, लाइट ट्रैक्स में होंगी, मतलब ये 2 स्पेसेस थी जहाँ पे मैं एग्जिस्ट करती थी, और वो सडनली तो स्पेसेस नहीं थी मेरे पास और मुझे इतना अजीब लगा, इतना अजीब लगा, बिकॉज like I didn't recognize how badly I need to rehearse all the time. I didn't recognize, like, it was almost like it was all like a weird obsession. I had to be rehearsing or I had to be on stage. And the reality is that when I'm in both these situations, I think what really I had given these 2 spaces the exclusive right to my moment. It's very interesting for me to recognize, which is that I had experienced being in the moment my entire life, but it came from being in rehearsal or being on stage, and I'd never felt being in the moment outside of that. And when I recognized that I was so sort of handicapped in that department is when I started learning how to be quietly and solemnly by myself. When I started learning how to find my moments in the books that I read, or the breakfast that I eat, or the birds that are chirping, instead of the stage I want to be on. One fantastic example is when I did that Norwegian Telenor gig where they did this. I did a couple of my songs with an orchestra. Shadad, I've never been more comfortable in life than I was on that stage with a 30-piece orchestra behind me and a mic in front of me and an audience. That's when I'm at my most comfortable. So doing this other life where I don't have access to that, that was the painful part. That was like, do I even matter anymore? It's interesting.
Yeah, I think it takes a long time for you to live in your shoes and think the space that you occupy belongs to you. एक बहुत ही कोई मैंने बचपन में कोट पढ़ा था, मुझे बिल्कुल समझ नहीं आया था, that the mountain never thinks about the space it occupies. I'm like, क्यों सोचेगा, पहाड़ है वो. अबे पायल, अबे वो नंगा पर्वत, तू क्या फिगर हो. बट जितना ये एग्जिस्टेंशियल ड्रेड है कि यार मैं अगर जिंदा हूँ, मैं अगर यहाँ बैठा हुआ हूँ, I deserve to be here and it's fine if I'm occupying that space and be comfortable in that. जितना ये बेसिक चीज होनी चाहिए कि यार मैं अगर सांस ले रहा हूँ तो मैं वेस्ट नहीं कर रहा किसी की ऑक्सीजन. To have that realization sometimes takes a long while. You have to really break apart to put yourself back together again. मुझे तो psychedelics ने बड़ा मदद की ये ज्ञान देने की. तो अगर आप सब्सटेंस के बगैर पहुंच गई हैं इधर, तो you've done a great job. आ रहा हूँ इस्लामाबाद, मैं कोविड टेस्ट में लग चुकी है, दूसरा शॉट लग जाए, then मैं इस्लामाबाद आता हूँ. And I'm so glad to know that you'll be doing comedy again, because as phenomenal a singer songwriter you are, personally मैं invested हूँ आपके comedy career में, इसलिए मुझे हाँ, I think you're the best improviser in this country यार, when it comes to improv comedy. Number one, numero.
Can you tell me, like, is the process really as hard as I've made in my head to actually like go through with a career in comedy? I think about a couple of things just to talk about it. For instance, number one, how much do you censor yourself?
Yeah, I'm an anomaly because I don't, but most people do. So
I have a problem. I have such a huge problem with having to censor myself that I almost don't want to do it.
मुझे तो almost लगता है कि मैं कोई डिज्नी किड हूँ, क्योंकि मैं उनकी कहानियां सुनता हूँ. I'm like heavy relate, because मैंने भी I did this TV show when I was in O levels, and then I've been doing shows since 2009 with theater, और मेरा page has existed since 2011 or something. तो अब तो कोई 10 साल हो गए. So I've learned, I've grown, and I've always been honest to myself in that moment, right? कि इस moment में मैं ये हूँ, you get all of this. कल को अगर मैं कुछ और हूँ, you get all of that as well. I haven't hid. So when people come,
हाँ, मैं थोड़ा सा अपने आप को for sure.
Yeah.
Man, like I teeter on the middle. Like I really want to be totally honest, but I know that as a woman in Pakistan, I don't think I can get away with being totally honest and not be scared for my life all the
Have
time.
you been to the Auratnak shows?
Yeah.
I mean, they're quite bold.
Yeah. I guess I'm also talking digital. Like I've always wanted to create
हाँ, digital
digital
आपको
content.
थोड़ा maybe
Yeah.
एक step पीछे होना पड़ेगा. But again, it's somebody has to do it, right? Like we used to do these bachodiyan sessions. It got a lot of flack. Some of our lives were threatened. हमने वो private कर दिए हैं. But 2-3 लोगों ने और उस तरह की चीजें करना शुरू कर दी हैं. So maybe in 5 years they'll be normalized. So like even things like dirty comedy, right? Now they're pretty mainstream. There's shows, they're sponsored, they're millions of views. We went कब किया हमने पहले हमारा dirty comedy shows. 15 was our first dirty comedy show. So yeah, we did this at live venues, but 6-7 साल करके आपने एक audience बनाकर groundwork कर दिया where people now accept it at a mainstream level. तो वो eventually when we do look back, we will be the normal ones. People will look at us and be like, ये normal बातें ही तो कर रहे थे. The crazies on the street right now burning down ambulances, they will be the ones, their narrative will be the one forgotten to history. They won't be seen too kindly by history. And when people hear the things we say, they'll be like, हाँ तो सही तो बात कर रहे थे, इसमें से बड़ी बात कौन सी थी. So yeah, so sometimes it's just doing it and letting the world come to where you are. Or even if they don't, आपने तो अपना ट्रूथ बाहर रख दिया ना, आपने तो कर लिया. आप तो झूठे मक्कारी से नहीं जी रहे, आप तो अपनी सच्चाई. तो अगर आपकी एग्जिस्टेंस से लोगों को कोफ्त आती है तो आए यार. अभी कल ही मैंने अपनी स्टोरी पे लिखा था, किसी का कोट था कि आई एम डन श्रिंकिंग माई सेल्फ, पीपल हु हेट मी कैन चोक. सो दैट्स वेयर आई एम. That's where I am. Okay, this is me, this is my story. You hate it, that's on you. And a lot of times authenticity से पाकिस्तानियों को नहीं, शायद दुनिया भर में, but यहाँ especially एक नफरत आती है कि how can this person be their authentic selves? How can this person truthfully say these things? Even when I get dirty laundry, आप फील सब करते हैं, तुम बात कैसे कर रहे हो? क्योंकि उनको लगता है वो इस बारे में बात नहीं कर सकते. Even trauma पे लोग जब दूसरे को बुरा भला कहते हैं, a lot of it comes from a place of hurt that I didn't say something. Why is it a big deal for you to talk about harassment? This is what happened to me as a child and I didn't say something. So you're making a big deal out of a phone call, a stare, a friend request, when this is what happened to me and I said nothing. So that guilt and hate that you feel for yourself, you project that onto somebody else. So
absolutely.
When they come out as their authentic selves, people look back at themselves and feel a little shitty about themselves, but they don't have the self-awareness to know that's what's happening. So they project that onto us. तो हाँ, ये सब होगा, पर अगर फट के आ रहा है और कहना है तो आ रहा है. Do it
मैंने ना
because you want
शुरू
to.
में लिखे थे कुछ I wrote some sketches, but then I didn't put them up because they would really have gotten us into trouble. But Imran Khan had done his like initial COVID speeches, and I wanted to do
खमियाजा अब तक भुगत रहा हूँ. So I really spoke out against him and a lot of my statuses went viral. So PTI Digital की जो team है, अब वो रोज एंटी शहजाद का सीजन ट्रेंड करवाती है because they're like इसकी credibility.
See, this is the stuff that I'm scared of. I wanted to make like this whole. I wanted to make a whole sketch of like what we wanted to hear our prime minister say, and it would have been so funny, but I would have been dealing with what you're dealing with right now. So basically, stay out of politics and stay out of religion unless you can do it really smartly.
यार वही बात है जो हमने कंटेंट की थी कि most of it is manufactured. Most of things you like.
Everything is manufactured, man. Everything is manufactured.
So what you like and dislike on social media, we are not deciding that. Somebody else is deciding that for you more often than not. तो वो वही है कि अगर कल परसों मैं काफी ट्रेंड हुआ हूँ माशाल्लाह सोशल मीडिया पर. And then you
अब
just
क्या कहा तुमने?
यार ये फिर वापस उसमें पड़ जाएंगे. बट कोई पीटीआई की डिजिटल लीड हैं, उनका नाम मैंने गलत प्रोनाउंस कर दिया था. ठीक है,
Oh.
तो शी वाज डिफेंडिंग इमरान खान के फाशी कमेंट्स, सो आई सेड उनका नाम भी कुछ मिलता जुलता ही है फाशी से. So PTI turned that into के he is saying कि ये फाशी है, which I would never, because मैं तो anti फाशी भी नहीं हूँ, मैं तो pro फाशी हूँ. I'm the pro फाशी movement. Last thing I would do is use फाशी as an insult. मैं तो बड़ा खुश हूँ, मैं तो चाहता हूँ फाशी पहले इस माशरे में. अगर कोई इसको out of context ले ले, it's just what you find vulgar is may not be what I find vulgar. I find sexism, racism, hateful ideology a lot more vulgar than using the F word.
Yeah.
तो अगर
Yeah.
आपको योगा में फाशी नजर आती है, ये आपका मसला है. आपको चाय के एडो में फाशी नजर आती है, आपका मसला है. तो आप जिस फाशी को एक माज बनाकर रेप अपोलॉजिस्ट बन रहे हैं, उसके अगेंस्ट हूं मैं. तो वो दे पेंटेड एट एज कि ये देखो इसने इसको फाशी बोला है, ये मिसोजिनिस्ट सेक्सिस्ट पिग है. एंड then the person started tweeting like कि मैं इसको शहजाद गांडू बोलूंगी, शहजाद सुअर बोलूंगी. And I'm just like, wait, if your problem is कि किसी का सर
Fashi, then why are you using this
why are you
word?
doing
Yeah,
this,
like
right? And
why are you doing this?
I mean, just the depth that they go to, right? When you say कि is it worth it? No, it's not, because चलो मुझे गालियां दी, Jabba the Hutt बोला मुझे, where I'm just like, यार ठीक है, I've put on some weight in quarantine, but Jabba the Hutt is a bit too much. Bad, terrible, 600 abuses, terrible, the worst. Even worse, like you cannot even imagine the reprehensible, despicable depths that these people would go to. So Iman Mazari was on the podcast and they hate her, obviously. And Iman's lost a few friends in an accident recently. They started making fun of that. कि ये देखा, like अगर आप इस डेप्थ पे पहुंच सकते हैं कि यार किसी का इतना दुख है to lose 3 of your best friends in a car accident, if you've gone to that depths कि आप उसका मजाक उड़ा रहे हैं, I'm sorry, this is not about principles. I'm sorry.
तो सीन है ना कि मैं
it's just
बहुत जोर से प्रॉपर्ली कॉमेडी करना चाहती हूँ, लेकिन मेरे लिए कॉमेडी जो है ना, वो the role it plays in my life is that it's like the strongest, best form of social commentary there can exist.
उसी से तो डर लगता है यार, उसी से तो लोगों को
वही तो मैं कह रही हूँ कि मैं अगर सोशल कमेंट्री ना कर सकती तो मैं क्यों कर रही हूँ.
मैं अपने आप से रोज ही पूछता हूँ कि मैं क्यों कर रहा हूँ, राइट? लाइक विद दिस, इवन विद दिस पॉडकास्ट, हैविंग दिस काइंड ऑफ कन्वर्सेशंस, क्यों कर रहा हूँ भाई मैं? जी सॉरी, मुझे
मेरे पास दो ऑप्शन है ना जिंदगी में. एक ऑप्शन ये है कि आई स्पेंड माय टाइम फाइटिंग विद पीपल, और एक ऑप्शन ये है कि आई जस्ट स्पेंड माय टाइम यूजिंग माय ब्रेन.
प्लीज मेक आर्ट, डोंट फाइट.
Just
and
I don't want to fight with people because people will pick a fight. Like मेरी एक तस्वीर है जिसके अंदर मैं यूं करके खड़ी हूँ. Every comment underneath that is क्या गर्दन टूट गई है, क्या गला कट गया है. अभी छोटी सी बातें मुझे ऑफेंड नहीं करती हैं बातें, लेकिन ये मुझे मेंटालिटी सिखा देती है कि कुछ भी, like literally कुछ भी बस लिखने को लिखते हैं लोग और फिर पीछे पड़ जाते हैं और फिर छोड़ते नहीं है आपका पीछा. और मैं कहती हूँ तुम लोगों के पास है ये वक्त, मैं क्यों ये वक्त निकाल रही हूँ? या तो आप लगाएं कंटेंट और फिर आप कमेंट्स ऑफ करें.
यार वो यही बात है ना कि they will bide their time, they will find an opportunity and then manufacture a narrative, right? I've deactivated Twitter because इतना abuse आता था. मैं हूँ भी नहीं, so it's not like I'm even actively engaging, so it's not worth it यार, it's really not worth it. I'm too far in the mud now, so मैं तो सोच रहा हूँ कि अब हाई रोड लेना छोड़ दूँ. I'm gonna be like, you guys want shady? Well, you got them. मैं तो सोच रहा हूँ मैं full slim shady mode में चला जाऊँ. क्यों मैं hands tied behind my back? I've been dealing with them, so
yeah,
maybe I'm gonna be like,
I don't want to be in that position where I can't say what I want to say.
Pseudonym बना लो कोई Swinery type का account और उसके through जो कहना है कह दो.
Oh, but I also want it to be the face.
I get it.
I also want like I just, the fact that I have to be pushed into a corner to do that just pisses me off, you know? Like, calm your tits, guys. Just chill out. If something offends you, just learn from it.
Yeah, people are, look at India stand-up comedy. Why can't you be? Look at their infrastructure. Look at the money Amazon is putting in that. Look at the things they can joke about. ठीक है हर कुछ मतलब फिल्म तो यहाँ बनाए एक इंसान अपनी जिंदगी के पैसे लगाकर, तो आप वो बैन कर देते हैं और आपको लगता है कोई बड़ी चीज नहीं है. म्यूजिक वीडियो बनाए तो आप ब्लास्फेमी के इल्जाम लगा देते हैं, फिर आप कहते हैं जी आर्टिस्ट इमर्ज नहीं हो रहे. कहाँ गए वो? एक जमाना था, आप देखें तो आपने जमाना बनाया क्या? इस जमाने में आर्टिस्ट आएंगे आपके? So,
everything is just
yeah, they tie anchors to your feet, throw you in the sea and then be like, इसको स्विमिंग नहीं आती. नहीं उल्लू के पटो, तुम लोग मुझे डुबाना चाहते हो. So जो उसके बावजूद यहाँ आर्टिस्ट बन जाता है, kudos to that person. That person just deserves even more credit.
मुझे कुछ लोगों ने कहा था कि तुम फेमिनिस्ट नहीं हो. मैंने कहा तुम्हें पता है मैं पाकिस्तान में एक आर्टिस्ट हूँ. लाइक इससे बड़ी फेमिनिस्ट चीज क्या हो सकती है? क्या लाइक जो मुझे करना पड़ता है, जो मुझे सोचना पड़ता है, जो मुझे सुनना पड़ता है, जो मुझे लाइक जो मुझे करना पड़ता है, ये मैं ही जानती हूँ. मेरा अल्लाह गवाह है.
Also the branding, right? I mean, again, we've been in the industry, or at least at the peripheries, for so long. We've been following people who 5 years ago would be like, I wouldn't call myself a feminist, and now have t-shirts that say feminist AF because it's branding. And I'm just like, I saw you 5 years ago. I know what
everything's a trend.
तो वही लोग हैं यार, आपके एक लीडिंग व्लॉगर टाइप हैं जिन्होंने एंटी औरत मार्च वीडियो बनाई थी, and now is just sells products, literally has an Instagram on feminism. I'm just like, cute
sweet dude. Let everything trend.
So yes, Natasha, I'm so happy.
I'm also really happy. Thank you so much for having me, Shazad.
No, thank you so much for coming on यार. This was कभी-कभी तो मुझे लगता है कि मैं थेरेपी के पैसे बचाता हूँ ये पॉडकास्ट करके. I'm just like, आप अपना आर्टिस्टिक प्रोसेस छोड़ें ना, आप बताएं मुझे ये दुख है, मैं क्या करूँ, मुझे बताएं. आपने जो सीखा है उससे मुझे क्या मदद मिल सकती है मुझे आप.
अच्छा है यार, जो भी देखे ना कि you're open about talking about your problems, it'll help them be open about their problems. So
I don't think so anymore. That's why I've always been very vocal about mental health, but the extent to which that's been weaponized against me, I just regret. I wish I'd never spoken about mental health.
Why would it be weaponized?
Because that's what they're like, इसकी तो बात ही नहीं सुनो, ये तो वैसे ही. I mean, you know, woke. People who are woke, people who will pretend to be woke. And I'm going to use it, which is such a hateful word that I never use it. Like, ये तो वैसे ही retarded इंसान. Really? ये आपकी wokeness? That you're going to use the R word against me? हाँ, इसका ज़्यादा मजाक उड़ाया तो ये तो suicide कर लेगा. हाँ. Really? That you think I'm unfunny and I'm not a comedian? And these are the jokes you make. So हाँ, mental health issues तो yeah, people don't realize कि depression doesn't mean कि मैं पागल हूँ, कि मैं कमतर हूँ.
You know, this is a
सोसाइटी में belong कर
problem.
सकता है, मेरा ओपिनियन नहीं हो सकता है, मैं कुछ कह ही नहीं सकता, मेंटल हेल्थ इश्यूज हैं, ये तो पागल. So that it gets to you, right? Like if hundreds of people are like पागल हो, तुम पागल हो, you start being like.
मैं हर कुछ महीने पाकिस्तानी ड्रामे देख के अपने आप को अपडेट करती हूँ कि सोसाइटी में कितनी चेंजेस आई हैं. और कुछ इससे पहले मैं देख रही थी एक मूवी नहीं एक ड्रामा, रांझा करती, और उसमें जो लीड प्रोटैगनिस्ट है उसको कोई मेंटल हेल्थ डिसेबिलिटी जरूर है, लेकिन ना उसका सर ना पैर कभी डिफाइन किया जाता है. पूरे प्ले में उसको बस पागल बोल रहे हैं.
इसके उसका
ना सुनो, ये तो है ही पागल.
Imran something guy?
Yeah. And it was, when I saw the show, just because I wanted to see what they were portraying, if I could figure it out, I couldn't figure out what he had. I don't think even he knew what he had. There was just this base level acting of what a pagal looks like, with absolutely no understanding of what mental health issues and differently abled people can look like or are like, or what that means. It's just so irresponsible to put that stuff on television without like just calling
And
them pagal, because the problem is that's the ammo. That's the ammo now in the
yeah,
country. This is how people talk about mental health. This is how people talk about anyone that's differently abled in any ways. वो तो बस पागल है. Like, what does that mean? पागल होना क्या मतलब है आपका? उसको क्या कोई डिफेक्ट है, कोई हार्मोनल डिफेक्ट है, उसको मल्टीपल पर्सनालिटी डिसऑर्डर है, उसे कोई वो ऑटिज्म स्पेक्ट्रम पे बैठता है, वो उसको डिप्रेशन, उसको क्या है? वो पागल पागल क्या होता है भाई?
yeah.
पागल तो एक मतलब
And
how can you just call someone pagal and give
एक
them a bill of this is a pagal person?
एक तो हमारे माशरे में ये है ना जिसको समझ ही नहीं आती. इवन जिनको समझ आती है और जो स्टेटस रखते हैं कि माय हाउस इज ऑलवेज ओपन, देयर इज अ कॉफी, उनको भी मैं बता दूं कि जी सिर्फ बज़वर्ड्स नहीं है, लोगों की पूरी एग्जिस्टेंस है ये, राइट? सो व्हेन यू से कि यस आई अंडरस्टैंड डिप्रेशन, you can talk to me anytime, but then you say, like, when you said I'm in a position where I can be like, I'm having a down day, I can't meet you, I'm still not in that position because I don't know how people will react. Yes, my closest friends I can say that to, but a business meeting, an acquaintance, if I be like, I'm not in a place where I can be like I'm having a down day because I know people won't understand. तो ये loves and जी depression है, ये समझ में आ जाता है उनको. पर आपका अगर कंटेंट ना आए एक हफ्ते, अगर आप you're having a down day, if you're not on social media for a bit, everybody is like, क्या है, क्या हो गया, क्या भाई, कुछ नहीं हुआ, just let me be, right? People, even when they say the right things, they don't do the right things.
Yeah.
So yeah, and plus
My brother says this, that I've stopped listening to what people say and I've started seeing what they do.
यही करना चाहिए. एंड अगेन मैं बहुत अपने आप को नहीं कैप कर रहा हूँ, I'm gonna stop. ये जो इमरान, मुझे इनका नाम नहीं पता, इमरान अब्बास इज द ओनली पर्सन आई एम थिंकिंग ऑफ, बट आई डोंट थिंक हिज नेम इज इमरान अब्बास, बिकॉज़ वो तो वो जिस्म वाला एक्टर है जिसने मीरा के साथ बारिश में सीन किया था. आई थिंक हिज नेम इज इमरान अब्बास. खैर जो भी है, दिस गाय इज बीइंग हेरल्डेड एज ऑफ व्हाट एन एक्टिंग परफॉर्मेंस, राइट? ऑस्कर वर्दी. एंड आई एम जस्ट लाइक, ask any actor who's been trained. The easiest thing to play is the extreme, right? If somebody tells you तुमने पागल बनना है and आप स्कूल लेवल कॉम्पिटिशन्स पे जाएं, those मेरी बहन के साथ क्या किया,
added twitch here, added twitch there. Yeah,
those scenes are the easiest to do. The reason Walking Phoenix is so phenomenal is because he humanizes a madman. You see him as a human being. His acting doesn't come out when he shoots Murray. His acting comes out when he's going into his apartment and he sees that he's going to be alone in there. If he sees this man who thinks he might be his father, if he sees that kid across the railing and sees कि ये मेरी जिंदगी हो सकती थी, that's acting. और हमें बस लगता है जी पागल पागल वाह. यासिर हुसैन जिनको हम कॉमेडियन समझते हैं, what was his first comedic role was making fun of being totla, and मैं तोतला हूँ, that's it. That's the extent of comedy in his first role, and we're like, wow, what a comedian, brilliant. So yeah, even the standards we've set for what great acting is, what great comedy is, are these. So then
everything is constructed. The people that get the award,
right? कि मैंने नहीं करना ही नहीं, हमने ये करना ही नहीं.
ये सारी मिली भगत होती है, और हम मिली भगत से हम दूर हैं.
इसीलिए तो इनको इतनी जल्दी है कि यार अगर बाहर से लोग आ गए, बाहर का कंटेंट आ गया, तो हमारी तो दुकानें बंद हो जाएंगी. You know, they internally got Z5 banned. This is not government.
Yeah,
this is
I've heard.
Morality. This is these people. खैर नताशा, बहुत दुख रहे हैं जिंदगी के, दुख तो बढ़ते चले जाते, पर I think it's time to live your truth and be honest and be open. And I'm going to look forward to your comedy career now.
Fingers crossed.
We should
Thank you so much for that.
Do a podcast with Shana as well. I think the three of us should have fun.
Yeah, let's do it together.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Natasha. कोई आप कॉम को मैसेज देना चाहते हैं? अपना सच जियो,
खुश रहे, अपना सच जिए, मास्क पहने प्लीज. कोविड का थर्ड वेव चल रहा है और हम एज अ नेशन, हमें लगता है कि हमें थोड़ा सा ईज अप हो जाना चाहिए, लेकिन दिस इज नॉट द टाइम टू ईज अप. This is the time to just, it's the last run. Let's get everyone vaccinated, take care of each other, love each other, stay in the moment, and be happy.
Things I wish my Prime Minister would have said. Bye, everybody. Thank you, Natasha. Thank you for listening. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
We're flying away from you. We're waiting.